Hello, everyone. My name is Tammy Wilson. I'm a director of English Language Arts at the Sacramento County Office of Education, and I'm very excited to welcome you to this webinar focused on implementing Education Code 53008, Screening for Risk of Reading Difficulties. This webinar is hosted by the Sacramento County Office of Education in partnership with the Department of Education and Glean Education. Next slide. The Sacramento County Office of Education is committed to improving reading and literacy outcomes, and we're partnering through our Sacramento County Reads initiative, which is really focused on leveraging the contributions of educators, community leaders and organizations, and families to create coherent systems that really support improved literacy outcomes for all of our learners. If you want more information about our initiative, Romisa will be dropping our link to our website in the chat. Next slide. Today next slide, actually. Today, we welcome close to 700 educators and colleagues from across the state to this first session in our webinar series. And we're really excited for the opportunity to support you as you are beginning the journey in implementing universal screening as a key part of your school's comprehensive instructional program. Please join me in welcoming my friend and colleague from Glean Education, Jessica Hammond.
Thank you so much, Tammy. We are excited to partner with SCOE and Sacramento County Reads for the California Screening Webinar event. For those of you who don't yet know about us, Glean Education partners with schools, districts, and states to deliver training, coaching, and school leader consulting. Our work aims to build educator knowledge of dyslexia and evidence-based literacy practices to improve student literacy outcomes. Glean Education is proud to offer this informational webinar on California's new reading difficulties risk screening requirements. Our purpose in delivering these webinars is to support districts to better understand the Ed Code, make informed decisions as they select and implement a screening tool, and consider the implications for classroom instruction and intervention. This is the first in a series of 4 webinars on California's reading difficulties risk screening. This event will include an overview of Ed Code 53008 by California's state literacy co-directors, Dr. Bonnie Garcia and Nancy Brynelson, in addition to 4 short presentations by the screening tool teams. After the presentations, we'll be providing individually hosted Zoom links where attendees can visit vendors for a 30-minute Q&A immediately following this webinar. Links to these Zoom rooms for Q&A will be provided at the end of this presentation. We will be answering any questions that arise in the chat, but most tool-specific questions won't be answered until those Q&A sessions after the webinar. We'll be recording this session and we'll be posting the recording on both the SCOE and the Glean Education websites. Thank you for being with us today. I will now turn it over to Dr. Bonnie Garcia and Nancy Brynelson.
Hi, there we go, Nancy.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you very much. I'm Nancy Brynelson, and I will kick this part of the presentation off, and then Bonnie will finish up. We're going to give you a bit of an overview of the education code that you will come to know and love. First of all, we wanted to just reinforce how important this effort is, and that the governor, in his budget summary for TK-12 funding for 2025-26, lists as in 6 major achievements for the year that all kindergarten through 2nd grade students will be screened for risk of reading difficulties, including increasing early identification and support. So you are all a part of something quite important to us and to the governor, as well as all of CDE top leadership. We encourage you to read and reread the Education Code Section 53008, particularly to be clear about what it is that LEAs or local educational agencies need to do. The sections that you'll want to look at and that we will touch on briefly today relate to the purpose of screening, the panel and how it was these instruments were selected, what you need to do in terms of governing board adoption, when screenings should be conducted, students who do not speak sufficient English to be screened with an English language instrument, and other specifics that school districts really need to pay attention to. And with that, I will start with the purpose. And in a couple of different places, actually subsection A is the legislative intent for 53008 and captures that this is intended to be, screening is intended to be part of a comprehensive instructional strategy, an assessment plan and plan for instruction and curriculum that supports the improvement of all students. Specifically here you see to inform instruction, measure progress, identify learning needs, and enable parents and educators to discuss learning in an informed way. You can read these slides, and goes on to talk about improving the achievement of all students. The third bullet is particularly important, and this is getting down into subsection L, which we highlight for you. The results are to be used as a flag for potential risk, not a diagnosis. So it's just the beginning. Screenings are intended to be brief. And in fact, if you go to the very last section of the Ed Code, which we don't list here, but it's subsection N, the definition of a screening is that it is to be brief. And you can look for further information. And in addition, results are to be used as a part of a broader process that further evaluates pupil needs and progress, identifies support, and enables targeted individual intervention as needed. All of this is really, and you'll find other parts of the code that refer to a multi-tiered system of support. So we're really thinking about a continuum of services for children. The panel, as you're probably aware, was convened in January of 2024, appointed by our state board, and they established criteria for the evaluation of instruments, process for soliciting and reviewing them, and then they approved the list in December of 2024. The process was rigorous. The criteria were stringent, and if you go to our website, which Bonnie will share with you in a minute, you can see all of the instruments that were used to review the screening tools. So what is it that districts have to do? LEA governing boards or governing bodies have to adopt one or more instruments in English and primary languages to the degree they're available in a public meeting by the end of June of this year. And that is subsection D. You may want to take a look at, and Bonnie will point that out to you in a bit, the adoption toolkit that was created by CISC and for a process in terms of how to proceed looking at what your local needs are and how you might want to consider the suitability of one or more instruments for your location. All K-2 students must be screened beginning in the 2025 school year unless they're opted out, and parents can do that. The districts are able to determine when those screenings will take place. And there is a bit more about that, which you see below. They need to consider whether students have received sufficient instruction in foundational reading skills to support a valid assessment. This is all subsection E. And then in subsection F, we see that students who are enrolled after the screening has taken place, must be screened within 45 days. So it's altogether possible that an LEA will wait until further on in the school year to screen kindergarten students, but maybe screening first and second grade children much earlier. That is an LEA responsibility and decision. There's been a lot of conversation about screening children who are, as it's said in the Ed Code, who do not speak sufficient English to be screened with an English language instrument. They're to be screened in their primary language if an instrument is available. Now, we only have instruments in English and then also in Spanish. 3 of them are available in Spanish. So for students for whom there is no instrument available, the LEA must develop, and implement a process for evaluating risk. And you see here that risk evaluation is based on an analysis of developmental history, educational history, and literacy progress, taking into account home background and evolving English language abilities, and including speaking, listening, reading, and writing, and consistent with California dyslexia guidelines. Clearly, this is going to involve communication with parents and guardians, and as well as the teachers and specialists who work with children in the school. But this, we do not have a template for this. This is to be developed by the LEA based on their context.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. So
Thank
for notifications and communications with parents and guardians, districts must provide them with information about screening. They must provide them with, I believe we are a couple slides back. Oh, I don't know who's moving it. Sorry. Okay, there we go. So districts must provide parents and guardians with information about screening, with the dates, as well as instructions for opting out 15 days before screening. They must also provide the parents and guardians with the results of screening, how to interpret the results, as well as next steps within 45 days after screening. And they must also provide, and the communications must also be compliant with translation requirements according to Ed Code 48985. And note that the notification at least 15 days before screening legislation does note that LEAs are encouraged to provide information about screening with other back-to-school materials at the beginning of the year. For opt-outs and exemptions, parents and guardians of students may opt out of screening, but they must do so in writing, and it is something that does need to happen annually. Students may also be exempted with prior written consent of parent or guardian if they meet one of 3 criteria. That is that they have a current identification of that or diagnosis of a reading difficulty, reading disorder, or disability, that they are eligible for special education services or have a 504, or that they're in the process of being assessed for eligibility for eligibility for special education or 504. And the student is being evaluated with assessments that make screening pursuant to this section redundant. So moving on to the next slide here. When students are identified as being at risk, statute does require that LEAs provide appropriate supports and services which may include those that are listed here among others. And so evidence-based literacy instruction, focus on specific needs, progress monitoring, early intervention in the regular general education classroom, one-on-one or small group tutoring, and or further evaluation or diagnostic assessment. There are unacceptable uses of the screening results. It's not an evaluation or a diagnostic tool for eligibility for special education. It is also not to be used for any high stakes purposes, including, and I'm going to emphasize, not limited to teacher evaluation, accountability, grade promotion or retention, identification for gate, reclassification, identification for as a student with exceptional needs. For funding, in 24-25, we have 25 million one-time Prop 98 general funds to support for training for administrators to administer the screenings. The funds have been apportioned January 2025 this month at $21.16 per K-2 student. And the governor has proposed for the 25-26 year budget 40 million one-time Prop 98 general funds to support necessary costs that include purchasing materials as well as training. For resources, I'm going to point your attention to our California Literacy webpage, on particularly the screening tab. You'll find, as Nancy noted, the list of screening instruments, the information overviews that list everything from who to contact, what skills are measured, administration info, and much, much more. There's also the communication and resources section, which have FAQs. We are developing another round, so stay tuned for updated FAQs in the next couple of weeks. Letters to the field that were sent out in December, the adoption toolkit that Nancy mentioned earlier, and a link to the literacy screening professional development funding that have the list of apportionments and other information, as well as FAQs particular to that. And also the policies, ed code that Nancy noted, that is really important. And then the risk difficulty risk screener selection panel website, as well as a link to the guidelines. And under the announcements and webinars tab, you'll see announcements for our upcoming webinar and then anything archived. And there's a Padlet link there that will help you hear some information about our webinar series. And we look forward to having you there. So thank you so much for the time. And here is our contact information.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Bonnie Garcia. And we'll now welcome the first presenter of a screening tool. That's Ashley Nicholas from HMH, a distributor of Amira. Just pop the slides right back up there and get you going.
All right, great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Ashley. And like my colleague Emily here, I'm a former teacher and intervention coach. We're all thrilled to be here and talk to you about this initiative, as we just heard. So at HMH, we have been supporting numerous California districts using Amira for years now. And this approval that you just heard about by the state is really exciting for all of us at HMH because Amira is not just one of the assessment screeners on the list. Amira has actually received some of the highest ratings for reliability and validity, and this comes from decades of independent studies. So I was the lucky one to present first today when it comes to the screeners, and I want to ask you, how would you feel about implementing a screener you know to be 98% effective in identification of early reading risks? A study from the University of Houston actually found just that. Amira is 98% effective in early detection of the identification of these risks. So before we get into that and we learn about how we do this, please know that my colleague Emily is your main point of contact. She's your partner for this review and your adoption of HMH with Amira. So Emily and I, we understand California's vision for this early screening effort, and we understand it to be the focus, identifying reading difficulties. You just heard our colleagues talk about that, to equip families, equip teachers with the tools to better support student success and really close those achievement gaps early. So HMH with Amira really aligns perfectly with the state's vision. Emily's local, as am I, and we look forward to sharing with you about how Amira is not only accurate, but how we screen for more skills using more measures. So we're going to take a look right now at those skills that we screen for K2. Everything we do here at Amira is in both English and Spanish. You heard about that a few minutes ago as well. But I want you to know Amira is actually for grades K through 6. Everything I'm sharing with you today is for grades K through 6, English and Spanish. So what does Amira do? She can assess a whole class at the same time in minutes, which is obviously a major time saver. This table is showing us the support for the required screening as defined by that state mandate you just heard about. But what's even better is that Amira is the only national norm reference screener for K2 on the list, and we've also received the highest ESSA rating. So some of the metrics we're using for this configurations includes things like oral reading, word use, word identification, letter naming, comprehension, estimated vocabulary size, and much more. So again, Amira can conduct this assessment with the entire class at the same time in minutes, assess a full class, immediately get actionable reports and insights. And then everything we're doing here is based on decades of research. For screening, Amira relies on many, many techniques, and these techniques are all those that have been found to be reliable indicators of the brain functions associated with students at risk for these reading difficulties. So I told you she aligns perfectly with this vision. And when we talk about the assessment, Amira itself is an online assessment tool, but she's more than that. We refer to her as a co-instructional partner. So Amira is a computer-based assessment. We do recommend headsets or dedicated microphones, just gives the students a better experience. And like all online screeners, the screening, you have that better experience with the dedicated microphone, but the screening takes about 15 to 18 minutes, usually less. But Amira is more than just a screening tool. You heard me say a moment ago, she's the teacher's co-instruction partner. So Amira is actually an AI engine. Amira listens to students as they read aloud in either English or Spanish. While she's listening to them read, she's simultaneously screening for reading difficulties. But it doesn't stop there, because when we think about what happens after screening, screening just takes about 15 minutes. That's where Amira steps in and the power that she has to provide personalized one-on-one reading tutoring for each and every student. So reports, actionable insights, every step of the way. But again, she extends beyond the required assessment. With that AI power, she's able to give that personalized support in real time, targeted interventions tailored for every student. I know there's quite a few out there. Somebody probably just sat back and said, AI, I wonder what that means. So don't worry, it's closed AI, didn't just pop up overnight. No internet. Amira has been harnessing AI long before any of us here have ever heard of ChatGPT. Again, closed AI means it does not rely on the internet. But what it means is that as a school or district, you always control and maintain that data, right? It's not sending out, it's not sharing out. Again, no internet. This is just decades of AI-powered research. So with this type of power, Amira is able to improve the consistency of assessments. Made a bold claim a few minutes ago about 98%, right? This is how she does it. Removing errors, judgments, testing biases. We've also been able to see how Amira is able to increase the comfort level of students during an assessment, reducing their anxiety. Basically, her avatar guides students through the assessment. They can talk to her like a person. Again, reducing anxiety, eliminating a lot of those errors. I'm sure somebody's wondering, what about students that are not capable of reading yet? We heard that LEAs have the choice and the determination of when that assessment happens or takes place. But what about we give that assessment and I still have students not capable of reading or below a kinder level? So we identify those students as early readers, and that's where the power of Amira kicks in, because students who are below a 10 word correct per minute are going to be classified as early readers. So that's, again, where that power kicks in. You're going to get that one-on-one support for those early readers, targeting the 40 distinct foundational reading skills. For those students and for others with the tutoring, you're going to see things like read alouds, echo reading, word lists, letter stories, all researched and designed to support early readers. So all of this will be reflected in our reports. And again, just as a quick recap, Amira is an online AI-powered assessment, but she's a teacher's co-instruction partner, right? It's a mouthful. Say that 5 times fast. Anyone can proctor this assessment because it is computer-based. And again, it takes about 15 to 18 minutes to do so. So I mentioned actionable reports, and that's a big one. After screening, teachers are going to have access to 10 reports, all printable. You can review all of these with a demo site and a QR code I'm going to share with you momentarily. It's also on the PDF that you have access to. So this makes it easy to monitor progress, check growth, or assign practice. And then for leaders or admins on today, you get access to those 10 teacher reports, plus a science of reading dashboard. This gives you a nice deep dive into the 5 pillars of reading, how students are performing. And again, I made a bold claim, so we want to make sure that we equip you with the tools to be able to measure the impact of a solution like Amira, and this is one of the ways we accomplish that. So back to the teacher reports, and specific to the mandate, we can see one of our risk screener reports. Real easy to read, those cut lines right down the middle, right aligned with the mandate, of course. In this example, pretty lucky, we just see one student at the top in red, beyond that cut line, at risk with stronger signals, right? So that tells us this student is at risk, maybe requires additional support. Remember, Amira is not diagnosing. Like everyone here today, this is a screener, only used for screening and reporting those at risk of reading difficulties in English and Spanish. Amira was actually the first Spanish screener that was able to gauge dyslexia risk based on a student's oral reading fluency in Spanish. So that's obviously one of the mandated pieces. And along with the mandate, our skills status and diagnostic reports are aligned to all of those required skills. And these are also aligned to Scarborough's reading rope. So here you see all the mandated skills, color-coded. We can see an entire class. And then, of course, family or parent reports, all printable, actionable resources to provide that support outside of the classroom. Now, I want to move into what happens after screening. So after screening, that's when the practice happens. That power of AI that I shared with you, personalized tutoring, 65 different micro interventions that are perfectly timed to support each and every student. And again, all this reflected in our reports. I know I have less than a minute left here, and I'm just going to end with this. All of these support that's going on with students, we see in our actionable reports. Everybody using Amira has access to downloadable resources for targeting instruction. And if you're using a program like Into Reading, you have access to over 1,200 resources. Finally, in my last few seconds, what does it cost? I'll just pop over to that. Everything that we've seen and talked about here today in the full complete suite package, $20 per student. That gives you the full screener, practice, and all of our robust PD support. Last thing I'll say is that HMH is a leader in professional learning, and know that we're able to work with you to customize a training package to fit your implementation needs. Remember, we'll be in the Zoom room after. I'm sure you have questions and we'll be happy to answer them.
Ashley, thank you for discussing Amira. We'll now welcome the second presenter, Whitney Chatterjee from mCLASS Amplify.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. So I'm going to grab the screen here. I'm Whitney Chatterjee, one of the literacy product specialists at Amplify, and really thrilled to talk with you guys today about mCLASS. Very excited about all the good things happening in California, especially as a former educator myself. It's great to see these types of screeners being put in place, and I'm excited to share with you a little bit about mCLASS. So you can feel free to reach out to my colleagues, Wendy Garcia and Erin King, if you have further questions or want to learn more after the presentations, and definitely hope that you'll join our Zoom room if you have questions and you want to come and chat a little bit more about what you hear today. So just to kind of look at the measures that we're using to meet the requirements of SB 114, the measures that you see listed here at the top of the chart show the mCLASS measures that we're going to use to assess risk of reading difficulty. So these are 1-minute measures, and they're given to all K2 students, although mCLASS covers K6. But for the purposes of SB 114, we're looking at K2 students. And the top measures here are really our first layer of screening for reading risk. The dark orange check marks that you see there indicate the grade levels where mCLASS assesses each measure, and all of the requirements for SB 114 are covered by these measures. The mCLASS assessment really stands on decades of research that's shown the reliability and the validity of the measure. We continue to partner with the University of Oregon and continue that research. And we've also added some additional measures. So at the bottom of the chart here, you're seeing some optional measures that can be given to a subset of students who've demonstrated some risk through that first layer of screening. So really clear way to work through administering these assessments, providing those optional assessments if needed. And then Amplify also offers a Spanish assessment called mCLASS Lectura. Here, again, the dark orange check marks indicate measures to be given at each grade level, and the light orange check marks indicate optional measures. So you'll see that same level of coverage of all of the requirements of SB 114 in both English and Spanish. So when we think about the administration of the assessment, this is really where mCLASS shines. It's a teacher-administered assessment, digitally scored, really efficient, but we know that you can't replace a teacher. So when kids are on a computer and they're taking an assessment all at the same time, it's hard to trust that data. But when you have a teacher sitting one-on-one with a student, she really gets a holistic understanding of each student as a reader while collecting that valuable data. You're able to see both receptive and productive oral language skills. You see where the student hesitates or self-corrects or gets frustrated. All of those things are really important cues that aren't necessarily captured by a score. So in total, teachers are spending about 5 to 7 minutes with each student and gaining just a wealth of information. And from the student's perspective, it's very gentle. They get to spend that time with their teacher, and the teacher's sitting alongside the student capturing their responses. It's also a very flexible assessment to administer because it can be delivered by teachers, interventionists, paraprofessionals. There's a wide variety of members of your team that could deliver this assessment. And there's a high level of fidelity as the instructions, the timing, the onboarding for each measure is embedded right in the mCLASS platform. So here's a look at the actionable reporting that you'll see. This is really important, right? As you're gathering data, you want to make sure that you're going to be able to use that data to inform your instruction. So once those measures are complete, teachers have instant access to student data in a really user-friendly dashboard. Just this picture, you can see, you can navigate it, it makes sense, you see the color coding. Yellow indicates students who are below the benchmark, red indicates well below the benchmark. So that first layer of risk for students is visually really clear here. And the exclamation mark that you see next to Samir's name at the top is kind of that second layer of looking at risk for reading difficulty. So he has scored well below the benchmark for his composite score, and he was given those additional optional measures so that we could drill down on that risk for reading difficulty. For mCLASS Lectura, you'll see dual language reporting. So this is a really fantastic way to see English and Spanish side by side. We can zoom in here on Gabriel Archuleta, and you'll see his scores in both English and Spanish, as well as an assessment of his overall literacy skill in each language. In terms of support and resources, this is really where you will see the magic of mCLASS. Definitely what I wish I had as a teacher. So what you're seeing here is the program analyzing the data that you've put in, and it's making grouping recommendations. So here I have a first grade class put into 4 groups based on their lowest skill deficit. So if I take one of these groups and kind of zoom in on it, you'll see that I'm going to find the observed patterns for this group. This is going to be drawn directly from the data. This is the kind of thing we do as teachers. If we're giving the assessment, we're going to notice these types of patterns, and we'll want to target our instruction towards those patterns. So if I zero in on one of these, below, it's going to give me a list of activities that target that observed pattern. So it's taking me through every step of the way, but I'm able to deliver these things personally to each student. If I zero in on one of those activities, you'll see that it's a really straightforward lesson plan designed to be a light lift for teachers. It's going to set me up for success with a preparation section that links everything in, and it follows an I do, we do, you do approach. In terms of the cost and the PD, we really have a large commitment to making sure that teachers are trained and feel comfortable and confident in delivering this assessment. So we're really invested in supporting teachers side by side to ensure that you have a successful implementation. And that includes helping our teachers understand how to administer the assessment, but also, and maybe more importantly, what to do with the data. So here are our subscription costs, whether you choose 1 year or multiple years, and you can get your K2 licenses free with the purchase of a PD package. So we would love for you to come to the Zoom later on to learn more and engage in question and answer. We'd love to talk with you more about mCLASS. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Whitney. Thank you for discussing mCLASS and Amplify. And we will now welcome the third presenter, Dr. Francesca Pei from Multitudes UCSF.
Here we go. Thank you, Jessica. Thanks, everybody, for inviting us here. I'm going to introduce you to Multitude today. Multitude is a California state-funded project that started about 4 years ago with the idea of building a screener to be available for free for all the public schools in California. Multitude work is actually guided by 4 main principles. One is to be neuroscience-based. So we translate what we learn here in the lab into the classroom. I want to be for, and a lot of the work that we did was based on multilanguage learner, so fair and accurate for them too. Culturally affirming, respecting the diversity of the state of California. And those are the things that basically have been guiding the work that we've been doing in the past 4 years. If you want additional information, I hope you can stay later and chat with us in our breakout room. But if you want to visit our website, those are the information you will find on the first page at Get Started that will allow you to contact our team and being able to have additional information, material, and everything you need to know more about Multitude, but also to engage with us as a community, because Multitude, more than everything, really is something that is built with and for the state of California. So what domain is tested in each grade? I kind of squeeze everything in my 5 slides, so I'm sorry if you cannot read everything here. I hope we can show you a little bit more later. Those are basically all the domain and tasks that are right now present in our platform. So our platform include the screening and on top of that, of course, there is reporting, intervention, and so far. But for the task, we have about 19 tasks developed across grade. So domains are here listed on the far left, and by grade, you will see the different measures that are part of our screener. Not all the part of our platform. Not all the measures are part of our screener. We select our measure following the part of the screener on the right side here for risk identification that are actually formulated based on the research that we've done in the past year and looking at what are, based on our data, the most informative tasks for reading development in English and Spanish, accurate for both English only and multilanguage learner, that do include the predictor of reading difficulty and dyslexia, and they have, of course, put together minimum administration time with the highest reliability that we could get, that is between 80 and 90% across language and grade. Next slide here, there's the test administration. This is a kind of a cartoon of what using Multitude looks like. Is one-on-one administration by choice, and this was decided based on the need to serve our multilanguage learners to be able to have oral language measure, and especially for the kindergarten. We usually have 2 devices that are synchronized one with the other. The universal screener takes about 10 minutes per child. Is a very engaging platform and easy to use both for the teacher and the student. So we do recommend to do this once a year with different time in the year depending on the grade level, and everything is actually part of our administration manual. We do provide guidance for teacher to decide how to screen multilanguage learner and which language you should choose to assess your student. So if you're going to be in the breakout room later, I can tell you more about that with my whole team being there. Is a web-based platform, so you're going to be able to use this with any device you have in your school. And it's actually very easy to administer with minimal training. Thank you to the teacher that did develop this with us. So the platform, what it looks like today, is really just like an enormous amount of feedback that we received from the 500 teacher administrators that did use our beta version in the past couple of years, especially this year. So what we have is what they want. This is a simplified version of some of the report. So this is sample for data report. On the left side, you have the class result for the universal screener. So the universal screener is reported at a classroom level, where everything is divided by task and domain. And you basically have a glance, an idea about for your student in your classroom. And of course, if you're an administrator, you will also have a higher level view, or the kids that need additional support, or the kids that are on target. And for kids that need additional support, we mean kids that are somehow flagged at a potential risk for reading difficulty and dyslexia. So we do believe that those kids do need additional support no matter what. And the kids that still did not complete the universal screener. If you click in each one of the students, you will be able to see an individual report on your right side. The individual report are actually not just for the universal screener measure, where you will have your composite score that is calculated, by the way, on the back end. So the teacher doesn't have to do any calculation, it's all API driven. And basically you're gonna see the result for each of the measure divided by domain. One thing that I forgot to say is that all our measures are adaptive, so it means that in a very short amount of time, you're able to understand the level of the kids' reading, or the kids' reading level, basically, because they do adjust depending on the response of the child to a harder or easier item every time the students give a response. On next page here, I'm gonna just show you really just a snapshot of what our intervention looks like. So as I showed you before, the individual results are breaking down by domain, and each of these domain correspond to quite a bit of additional resources for teacher, where they can find tips sheet and others to do activity in small group, individual and classroom wise. The whole filter by domain, the whole filter by size group that we recommend. All the resources in the intervention platform are vetted or produced by our team in collaboration with many others. So we've been working with University of Oregon, with Stanford, MIT, and many other very high-level organizations that have been helping us to build this platform. A lot of the work that we've been doing on the professional development side is done with the UCLA and UCSU collaborative. We will come out very soon with them with Araya. That is a website that will provide even additional resources that will be linked to our platform. On top of that, in the resource page, you will find all the asynchronous training. So teacher will be able to self-guide themselves through videos, and of course, the manual for administration. So what is the cost and a viable PD? So Multitude, as I said before, is state funded. It is and will be free for all public schools in California. These include, of course, the screening tool, all the reporting. We do also have reporting for parent and explanation of how to explain parents the report and additional tip sheet for them. Resources for intervention, as I show here, just in a snapshot. And then the basic training that is coming with webinar that once you decide to adopt Multitude, you will be allowed to join. And the webinar, about 1.5 hours, plus the synchronous training has been enough to train teachers this year. And now that the platform is even easier to use, we hope that this is going to launch really a lot of school and teachers to be able to use Multitude no matter what. We do also have all the support and school success team available to all of you. Mostly we do want to get your feedback. We want to work together with the school and teacher. We're not a vendor. We're not, I don't like to call us that. I think we are like a community-based project, and we really want to keep working with each one of you, and we value every single one of your feedback. We've been asked if we could provide additional training. So for private school and for additional training is more ad hoc, where we're going to basically mostly work on not just the screening model, because that's something that is part of our basically free training, but how do you respond to result and how you support multilingual learner. We're actually building a team to support that. So we may be able, actually we will be able at this point to have those training to available for the school that are interested. So please, again, goes to our website and request information, because we're building really amazing, super interesting things. And I think I'm done here. I hope to see you later in the breakout room.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pei, for discussing Multitudes UCSF. And we'll now welcome the fourth and final presenter, Dr. Jason Yateman with ROAR from Stanford University.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here today. Skip the slide. I'm Jason Yateman. I'm a professor at Stanford. I'm thrilled to get to talk a little bit about our assessment platform, ROAR, the Rapid Online Assessment of Reading. I'm going to keep this quick because as the last presenter, I'm guessing everyone's ready to go chat with us and ask some questions. So first of all, I'm going to share a couple useful resources. This is the ROAR website that'll walk through all the details for educators how to administer ROAR, and then a series of overview documents. One of the parts of the ROAR mission is to support transparency. So from the underlying science, everything's published in open access journals, to all the materials that we develop, which everyone is posted on our webpage. So even if you decide to adopt one of the other excellent products here, but you like the documents we provide that talk about next steps, you're welcome to use them anyway. So ROAR is approved for grades K to 1. Important point to keep in mind that if you want to work with the ROAR team, you'll also be choosing to work with one of the other folks on this call. ROAR has been built and validated for K to 12 across English, Spanish, Portuguese, German, French is on the way. International multilingual research is a big core part of our research program. But for use relative to this policy, we've been approved for K to 1 in English, which means you would combine ROAR with one of the other products. The goal of ROAR is to lift the burden of screening, assessment, and progress monitoring. So it's designed as a platform of simple gamified apps that tap into the same underlying skills as many of these other measures, but don't actually require speaking out loud. That means it's scored in real time, it's delivered using computer adaptive testing algorithms, and it can be administered to a whole district at the same time. So if you're a large district that wants to be able to screen K to 12, you can collect the same measures, and within 20 minutes of deploying ROAR across your whole district, in real time be seeing the score report. So for a teacher, for a teacher's class running ROAR, as the students are taking the assessment, in real time, the score reports are being populated. What do the score reports look like? Sorry, this is what it looks like for a student view. So it's totally automated, as I mentioned. It can be deployed through Clever or ClassLink, or we can roster students through a CSV or Excel file as well. It's administered simultaneously, does not require verbal responses. And if you want to come and chat in the breakout room, I'd love to talk about all the science that went into developing this measure. Here's what the score reports look like. So a lot of similarities to the other ones, but with some additional features as well. So we both provide percentile scores as well as raw scores, as well as scores that are used for progress monitoring, and flag students that need additional support in each category or overall. And we provide next steps documents talking about single word reading, phonemic awareness, sentence reading, and provide detailed information on each measure to guide intervention. So this is the score report that will populate in real time right as each student is completing the measures. So there are a number of links here to guides for families, for educators, for teachers, and then some overview of dyslexia and the factors that contribute to reading challenges. And finally, I want to end by just talking a moment about our model. So much like Multitudes, we're not a vendor. As I mentioned, I'm a professor at Stanford. I run a research program that seeks to understand the factors that contribute to reading challenges and understand the heterogeneity among students with dyslexia. We want to work with all of you to both support your needs on the ground in districts and also learn from you and make sure that our research is aligned with real challenges in the educational system. So the way we like to think about this is inspiring a virtuous cycle between research and practice. As researchers, we hold a knowledge of the literature and the decades of research on reading development, but as educators, you have a wealth of knowledge that we may not have sitting in the confines of university. So the overall mission of ROAR is to build deeper and systemic connections between researchers and practitioners, hopefully work together to inspire a virtuous cycle where we're all learning from each other and bringing new innovations, most importantly, to the students of California. So I will pass it off to Jessica now.
Thank you so much, Jason. And thank you everyone for coming. We just hang tight. We have a few more things to share with you. Please take a moment to complete the survey. If you can open it from the QR code. We'd love to hear how everything went for you. There will be a link in the chat in a moment, and that link will include all 4 Zoom rooms that you will head to for your Q&A. And we'll now open those Zoom rooms for a 30-minute Q&A. On behalf of Glean Education, the team at Sacramento County Reads, and all of the vendors here, we'd like to thank our state literacy co-directors, Drs. Bonnie Garcia and Nancy Brynelson. And thank you to the teams at Amira, Amplify, mCLASS, Multitudes, and ROAR for your time in that presentation sprint, I will call it. Feel free to have our participants head to the breakout Zoom rooms, and we hope to see you all in February for our second session, which will be on preparing for Ed Code 53008, and that will be on the 27th. And we will see you then. Thank you for your time.